In this powerful episode, I talk about the first steps you can take after a breakup. I talk about emotional suppression versus emotional expression, the importance of inner child healing, and how taking 100% ownership for your life, self, and healing is key.
Welcome to Man Quest Define Meaning, where we help men navigate modern life, find their true purpose, and redefine manhood. I'm your host, James, and each week, inspiring guests share their journeys of overcoming fear, embracing vulnerability, and finding success. From experts to everyday heroes, get practical advice and powerful insights. Struggling with career, relationships, or personal growth? We've got you covered. Join us on Man Quest Define Meaning. Now, let's dive in.
Breakups. Probably one of the most painful experiences most people will feel. Because a breakup can have the impact of turning your life upside down. You have this idea that, yes, I'm in this relationship and everything's going well. And then suddenly, it's all taken from underneath your feet. And you're left there thinking to yourself that 6 months ago, I was feeling safe, secure, happy, loved. And then suddenly, that's all gone. The reason I wanted to do this episode was because this was one of the biggest and most painful experiences that I've been through. And if there's some way that I can impact or inspire or help somebody who's going through something like this right now, then I want to be able to do that. Now, my first major breakup was back in 2016, I think it was. Yeah, 2016. And I'd only been with this woman for 9 months. But it was one of them really fast-paced, high-intensity relationships. And when I got with her initially, for the first 6 or so months, I was thinking, I was loved up. I was loved up, literally, to the brim. And I thought, yeah, this is the one. It's perfect. Everything's going well. And we were in the process of actually buying a house together. Luckily, it ended and we didn't get a house together because that would have made things so much more complicated. But when it ended, I remember going to this house where she was staying and she told me all this, and it didn't really sink in initially. And I went home and I literally passed my parents, because I lived with my parents at the time, and I just went upstairs and started sobbing. And for the next 6 months, I had severe anxiety, depression. I felt very much like a zombie. In fact, I walked around like a zombie. I felt as though, how can life get any worse? I felt stuck. I felt overwhelmed. I felt like, this is it. This is the end. What am I going to do? But trust me, it is just one step at a time at that point. You think to yourself, what am I going to do? It's the end. Nobody's going to love me now. But it's a phase. You move through this phase. And I remember one thing that I did first 3 or 4 days into the breakup was to make a commitment to myself that I was never, ever going to be in that place again. And So this is where I feel it's a good place to start, because the only person who can help to change your life is you. You can get inspiration from others and assistance. Maybe you might need a therapist, or you might need to go and chat to somebody. That's fine. But you're the one that has to do the work. And that's something people have to realize. Sometimes people go to coaches, and I was the same at the very beginning, thinking that the coach can fix my problems. But the coach is just there to listen, to give you assistance, to give you inspiration. Then you have to go and do the work. Now, my initial thoughts for the first year since after the breakup was that I was going to go away and improve my to help me to improve my anxiousness, to help to improve my confidence, because my aim was to show my past partner that I'd changed and I'm ready for a relationship again. But little did I realize that as I started to improve myself, as I started to make them adjustments, I started to realize that, do I really want her back? Because sometimes you can be in relationships and you can be the loneliest person. So let's go back to commitment. So the relationship's ended, or whatever's going on. It doesn't have to be a relationship. It could be an end of a job. It could be a loss of a friend. It could be anything. But you have to make a commitment, really, that you're going to change your life. And actually, it was at this commitment that I ended up spending the next 10, 15 years on this personal and spiritual growth journey, which has completely transformed who I am. So you're going to make a commitment. My suggestion here is that you write a commitment declaration on either the computer or a piece of paper, and then you sign it and put it on your wall. Now, this declaration could include ways that you're going to improve yourself. It could include new things that you're going to do first thing in the morning. It could be anything, just so that you have this declaration that you're going to change your life, that it's on the wall so that you can see it every day. Even better thing to do would be to read it. The next thing that you could possibly add to your day or routine or whatever it is to allow yourself to start to feel your emotions. I've spent many, many years burying my emotions, whether that's anger, sadness, grief, hatred, whatever emotion it is. And take it from me, the more that you ignore or try to run away from your emotions, the more your emotions will come out and get the better of you. So for me, anger has always been an emotion that I found very hard to express, very hard to deal with. And so I used to bury that down. And I remember on one occasion, I was actually with this woman, and when I'm sober, I can suppress, I can bury anger very easily. I can bury emotions generally. And on one occasion, I was drinking. Now, when I drink, I can't. And I remember during this event, she said something to me, and I just flipped. And I shouted and stormed out. Now, that's not me at all. But when you bury, especially anger, when you bury anger or suppress anger, it can always come out at times which are most inconvenient. At least when you are able to when you are able to feel and acknowledge and to accept your current emotions, you can work through them in a healthy way. So, for example, now, when I'm wanting to express some anger, I can either shout into a pillar, I can go and do some CrossFit, and I allow my warrior to utilize that anger in a healthy way. I can just find ways to feel my anger. Sometimes feeling anger might involve just sitting with it and allowing myself to feel that sensation in my body. It all depends how you as a person function and how you best feel into emotion. So this might be an idea of exploring how you can personally acknowledge and feel your emotions. Another way I do do it, is through dance. I do use dance to feel my emotions as well. But it's so important to allow yourself to feel these emotions, especially after a breakup. After a breakup, you're going to feel a lot of sadness, a lot of grief. And they're not easy emotions to work through. It's so important that you start. And it hasn't got to be long. It could be just, you could just start off by doing 60 seconds of feeling that emotion. And you might burst into tears. And that's okay. It's okay to cry, especially for the men out there. So it could be 60 seconds, it could be 2 minutes, it could be 10 minutes. You could put aside a day to allow yourself to feel these emotions. Just remember, it's a process. It's not something that is going to be done in a couple of days. If you've got the time, you could go away for a whole week or a whole couple of months or to feel these emotions, to process all this stuff. But for the majority of people, it's almost impossible to spend whole days feeling your emotions because of work commitments, family commitments, whatever it is. Now, I find, for me personally, when it comes to feeling emotions, I do it in several ways. Now, these ways that I utilize might not be what you need, but these are just ways that I've done it, and these might just be what you need. So the first thing I do, I like to go and walk in nature. Nature is one of my greatest healers. And so I'll go and walk in nature and I'll talk these emotions out loud to myself. Now, I suppose I've done it for many, many years. And so I'm able to have conversations with these emotions in quite an easy way. Now, when I speak out loud, the good thing about doing that is that you are able to hear it. If you think it in your head, you don't hear it. Whereas when you hear it, it almost feels like an external conversation. And I might ask my anger or my grief or my sadness, what are you trying to tell me? Why are you here? What do I need to do? How can I feel these emotions more deeply? And it's about getting curious about these emotions so that you can start to accept and acknowledge and to feel these emotions. And you'll also find that these emotions are only here because there's something wrong in your life. And it's at this point that these emotions can actually tell you what they actually need. So, for me, a lot of my emotions were there because I lacked the love for myself. This is working with your emotions is about exploring this a little bit deeper. It's about finding the ways in which you personally process these emotions. Because as I said, people process these emotions in different ways. We're not all the same. And we never will be. So it's about finding a way that you can best feel these emotions. Another big part of my healing journey after the breakup was the inner child healing. Now, we're recording, I think I've recorded almost 60 episodes. And I've lost count the number of people who've talked about inner child healing. And so it just kind of reinforces the importance of healing our own inner child. And for those people who think, oh, that's cobwabble, or I don't believe in that stuff, trust me, it's pretty damn true, especially in my eyes. Because as a child, as a baby, as a young child, we don't know really what's right and what's wrong. So we're super reliant on our parents to show us. And if our parents at that time weren't emotionally available or were always away, then we're going to miss key parts. We might not feel loved. We might not feel worthy or good enough. Or we might have to do things in order to feel that we're a good child. So suddenly, say for example, you have to be quiet at a dinner table. That's a big one. I will be seen and not heard. And this can have a huge impact. You know, the fact that if you start talking and you get told that, oh, you're a bad child, these beliefs might still be within us, that I'm bad. I will always be bad. I'm a bad person. And it's the same with, say, for example, you had a parent who wasn't there very often and wasn't able to give you the love that, as a child, you wanted. So you might be feeling that sense of feeling unloved. And so I'm going to have to reinforce the need for us to do that inner child healing, to parent our own inner child. Now you're probably asking, how can you do that? Well, the first thing is I would suggest that you type in inner child healing into Google, and it will give you lots and lots and lots of resources. I think, yeah, you'll be absolutely inundated with resources. Then you're going to pick one that's right for you, because there's a number of ways that you can do inner child healing. You can do inner child healing through meditation. You can do inner child healing through visualization, through just allowing yourself to connect to your inner child, like I mentioned earlier about emotions. You can set the intention to connect with your inner child. And like we're talking about earlier with, say, for example, anger or grief being part, a sense in your body, you can allow yourself to feel, to move to where you feel that inner child is within your body. And then you can ask it for what it needs in that moment. With my own inner child always wants love. So then how do we give that inner child love? The first thing is you can just allow yourself just to feel love and to visualize yourself loving that inner child. And it's such an important thing. We think that we're not good enough or we're not worthy. But in fact, a lot of these things which cause these beliefs that we have are actually from our childhood. And so by doing that inner child healing, we can start to heal those parts and to start to rewrite our script of what happened. I had an interview the other week. I think it'll be coming out the episode after this one. And that was with Mark Hashumi, I think his name is. And he talked about psychotherapy and shamanism. And we had a conversation about inner child healing and how important it was. And he talked about the script that we currently live in this moment was actually written when we were a child. Even though things have changed massively. And so by being able to go into our script, to realize our actual script from our inner child, we can start to rewrite it. And this involves maybe looking a little bit deeper at our own childhood. What went well? What didn't work? Were our parents there when we needed them? Did we feel loved? Did we feel good, or did we always feel bad? What kind of things did we do that really allowed our parents to shout at us? Did we get enough support? Did we allow them to talk to us like we were a little boy or a little girl? How did that make you feel? So my suggestion for inner child healing will be to look at resources on the internet, Google, and to see what feels right for you, and perhaps follow that avenue, whatever it is, course or meditation or visualization, and try it out. And if it doesn't work, that's okay. Just try again, try another. But what I am thinking I'm thinking I might even put together an episode especially on inner child healing. And I might do an inner child healing meditation. That feels right, mate. So maybe I'll do that on my next episode where I talk solo. Because it's such a big, important thing to really understand. And the final point I want to talk about today is about taking 100% ownership for what has happened. Now, the reason I say take 100% ownership is because if you only take 50%, you're going to blame the other person for the other 50%. And at least if you take 100% ownership for what happened, you bring all the power back to you. Now, I'm not saying you're ready to take full ownership, because there might be some blame, or there might be something which happened which you can't quite let go of. And that's okay. But one of the things I've realized for myself is that when you take 100% ownership, you own everything that has happened, and you are then able to change that yourself. Because you can't change that other person. Full stop. You might think you can, but you can't. But who you can change is you. And through this change, you can really, really step in and change the parts of you that perhaps didn't work. And maybe you want to change parts that did work, but you can make them better. In one of my first relationships, and I think probably all of them, there was always part of me that was very anxious. I was the very needy partner, the one who wanted to always feel love of that other person. And that's the way I felt love. And so I realized that I was what they call now a Mr. Nice Guy. I was always really, really nice. I had no boundaries. I hated arguments. In fact, I would do anything. I'd even carry into a ball to avoid an argument. I had no confidence, no self-esteem. And so by taking 100% ownership for my life personally, I was able to change that. I was able to build confidence. I was able to build my self-esteem. I was able to manage my anxiousness. I was able to step in and take the confidence to step into disputes, arguments in a healthy way. I was able to be a much, much better partner. And this is because I took 100% ownership for what happened. In fact, I had a conversation the other day with a guy who is going to come onto the podcast, and he's a relationship coach. And we had this conversation about taking 100% ownership. And what came from that was that when you were able to take full ownership of what happened, you step into your best version. You were able to change. You were able to grow. You were able to become that next level you. And that next level you is a much, much better person. He's more evolved. He's more wise. He steps into his full power. And obviously it's a process. It's not going to change just like that. But also taking full ownership will allow you to forgive not just that other person if it was their fault, but able to forgive yourself for things that happened in the past and for allowing things to happen. So how do you take full ownership? My suggestion, and what I have done in the past, is to look where the relationship perhaps didn't work. Look at avenues where you felt wronged, or where you may have been wrong in that situation. And ask yourself, could I have done something different? What part did I play in that? Is there parts of me who feel small? And how can I bring these parts out in me? And then it's understanding as well, this is a key concept, that we have everything inside us. So we can be happy and merry. We can be sad and grieving. We can be evil, but we can also be great. We can be patient, or we can be impatient. And it's the choices that you make which dictate which ones you follow. But if you kind of figure out that, oh, I'm not evil, you try to push it away, it comes back twice as hard. Whereas you accept that part into you, you get to then choose how you react in a situation. Now, I use the word evil because probably there's going to be a lot of people out there who said, I'm not evil. But it's understanding that we have every part within us. And when we start to accept that, and we'll accept these parts in, we can then dictate which parts that we want to, who we show up to be. And there's a quick, brief idea of some ways that you can not quickly, because it's a process, go through a breakup. And I'm one of them people who, after a breakup, I will spend a year or year and a half, 2 years doing the work so that I don't take any of that stuff that I had in the other relationship into the next one. And so we talked about dealing with anxiety and depression and looking at making a commitment to change our own life. We looked at feeling your emotions, which is the path to healing. And being able to practice processing emotions in healthy ways. And then we stepped into looking at inner child healing. And then about us taking full ownership of our life. So I hope those points help, because I know they helped me. And so I hope they help you. And yeah, let me know what you think. Do these work? Do you want to have specific episodes on one of these topics, which I can go into a little bit deeper, and how I personally did it fully? Yeah, I'd love to know what you think, because it's all very well me doing these podcast episodes, but if I don't hear feedback back, it's a bit more difficult for me to know what people want. So yeah, I'd love to know what you enjoy, what needs to improve, ways in which I can be better. I'm always looking to improve, so that's perfect. Thank you very much.
Thanks for tuning in to Man, A Quest to Find Meaning. If today's conversation sparked something in you, take a moment to reflect, then take a step.
Remember, real growth comes from action,
not just insight. If you found value in this episode, share it with a friend, leave a review, or reach out and let me know what resonated. Your feedback helps shape the journey we're on together. For more conversations like this, make sure to subscribe and stay connected. You can also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn for updates, tools, and upcoming guests. Remember, it's not about having the answers, it's about daring to look.